All right, so thanks everyone for having some patience with the lecture on Wednesday. Hopefully we are through some of the most egregious technical issues and won't have to come back and re-record whole labs like this again. But luckily today's is pretty short, so let's just hop in and get through it. So today we are going to learn how to sort of make our maps look more presentable, add things like legends, titles, and scales and stuff like that, and then how to sort of organize it onto a standard piece of paper. So if you were going to include it in a report or something like that, you will know how to do that now. So and a lot of the homeworks moving forward, we're going to expect you to sort of format them accordingly with the information in the book. So right now we're just going to do tutorial 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. Like I said, we just don't really need this rest of the stuff that's going on in this chapter. So, and you don't need to know. You only need to know this stuff for your homework. So, all right. So let's hop into it. So we're going to open tutorial 3.2, and we have some demographic data from the 2010 census. And so these are Asian Americans. And what we want to do first is sort of, we have our scales already set up here, so 0 to 50,000, 50,000 to 100,000, etc. And we might want to use this information again. Say we want to show different demographic groups in the country. So what we want to do to save all this information, we did this last week too, is save it as a layer file. And this will let us import back in all of our settings so we don't have to go in and redo them again. So if we go click save, I have already saved it here, so I'm going to save it. I've saved it in chapter 3 of my exercises as state population layer. I'm going to save over it. And that way we just have it available, and we don't have to go back and remake it. So right now this is the standard data view. This is what we've been using so far, but we can go in and click back and look at a layout view. And so this is what our map would look like on a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper if we were going to print it. So the way that we switched over to this was going up to view and clicked this layout view right here. So and to get back to the data view, we just click that. So you'll get used to in this class clicking back and forth between these things. So right now, what we want to do is, so say we just want to show this map, and so right now, if we were to do this, we are losing a lot of real estate on the page. So you might want to present a map in landscape mode. So to do that, you can click anywhere not on the map. So anywhere outside of this box. So I can click on the piece of paper and click outside here, and we want to go to page and print setup. And weirdly enough, I'm not sure why you have to do this, but you have to click, say we want to flip the page, we have to select landscape here, and we also have to select landscape here. And after we do that, it flips our page over. So now we actually, if we're going to print this map out, we're going to get a lot more detail than we would have otherwise. So this is something that's really important. You might be flipping back and forth with your pages, so just keep that in mind. So let's say we want to, we want to add some more elements to this page, but we want it to look sort of nice. We don't want to move, we don't want to just sort of freehand it here, moving around the map to try to get it perfect. So we can use these scale lines up here. So what we can do, in the book it tells you to click on the 8.5 inch ruler here, and then the 7-inch ruler here, and that gives us some cross lines to work with. So once we can do that, we can actually snap our map to those. So you can see as I get closer to it, it snaps. And we could sit here and we could try to reshape our map like this. Stuff like that, but oftentimes you want to be more precise than that. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click our map now, go to Properties, and go to Size and Position. And we want to make sure this Preserve Aspect Ratio is clicked, and we just want to change our width. So the book tells us to change the width to 7.5, and we hit Tab to lock that in, and just click OK. And that should resize our map to exactly the size that we want. And we can click it around now. I've lost my guidelines, it looks like. There we go. And we want to drag our map and snap it into where these two lines meet. So there we go. But as you can see, the map sort of is cutting off California, parts of Oregon and Washington. So what we can do is we can actually interact with this map just like we would in the data view. So we can move the map around and stuff like that. But we still can't quite get it in, so we have to back it out a little bit. So we're going to drag that. Okay, that looks much better. And we can you can just sort of tinker back and forth trying to get this map to fill its space. And that looks good. I like that. So from here we can go ahead and we can start inserting various. We can insert a title, a legend over here. So we go to Insert and Title. So I mean it's pretty straightforward. And it's going to pop this thing up here. And we're going to Asian 2010, create a title. So that will change this. Takes a little time. And if we want to change the font size, we actually have to click Change Symbol and change it to 20 that way. And once we have it here, we can sort of center it as best as we can. If we really wanted to get technical, we could use our guidelines again and try to snap it into the most centered position. But we're not going to do that right now. So right now, just sort of get it into a good position. That looks fine to me, and we can move on. So if we want to include a legend, because right now, okay, this tells us something, that there are more Asian Americans in California than say South Dakota, but we don't really know what the scale of the map is, or what the scale of the data that this map is displaying. So we need a legend, and this will pop up. So depending on the data that you're displaying on the map, you can sort of add different aspects over here. So I can click this away or add it back. But right now we just have population. That's the only thing that we're displaying on our map. So we're just going to click through this and not really change anything. And that gives us a legend. So here we go. And now we know, oh, okay, this is what the different gradations of color mean on this map. So, but again, we want to try to be precise about where we put stuff. So we can add a guideline at 10.5, and we can also add a guideline at 1.5. And we can drag our legend down here. That doesn't really help us though. Let's make sure. Oh, horizontal. Okay, so it also wants us to have a guideline here at 9. So, and then we can, boom, drag it. We can resize it so it snaps in between these two guidelines, and we have a really nice thing with it. Each has the legend has a 1/2 inch between the edge of the paper and the edge of the map, and it looks good. So these are all things that you can do, and you can also add things like a scale bar, which is important for maps. And so we have our scale here. It's in miles right now. You can just drag it until we get like 1,000 miles. But say you wanted kilometers, you could change that by right-clicking Properties and just changing the divisions unit. It's not that hard. So here we have our scale bar, and we want a 1 inch. Where does it want it again? It wants it at whoops. So drag it like this so it snaps in right there. So we added a guideline at 1 inch, and then we're going to align it with the right side of our map. And then always with data, we want to cite the source of our data, so we might want to insert just a bit of text here, so we can just type source, U.S. Census 2010. We click off of it, and it should, whoop. So this will happen. There we go. This layout part can be a little slow, and it'll chug sometimes, so just be patient with it. So we want to add, if we add one at 1/2 inch here, and we can snap it into the corner, and that looks nice. So you know, this is a nice way to make our maps look way more professional than they otherwise would. And so, and as always, if you want to export your maps, you go up to File, Export Map, and you know, choose the file type you want. And so JPEG is a pretty standard one. You always want to raise this resolution up. So if we raise it up to 300 dpi, that will help. So I'm going to save this to my desktop, and it has exported it. So now we can go find it on our desktop, and I'll bring it over here. And there we go. So now now we have our JPEG of our map, and we could insert this into whatever we wanted to. So this is that's the end of 3.2, and moving on to 3.3. You might want to save this at this point, but I'm just going to move on. So we want to go to this and maps 3.3. And essentially, it's just the repeat of what we had before, the exact same thing they'd given us. So before, you'll remember we saved that layer file, and we because say we wanted to display a different demographic group, but we want to keep these same settings, we would go to Properties, Symbology, and we want to go over to Import. And import is important because it will keep all of the information that we need. So we just click OK, and now we can choose a different data frame that's located inside of the population data set. So we could look at African Americans, and we get it going, and we see our map changes pretty considerably, but we still have our same settings, which is really important, especially if we wanted to compare these two maps, which is what we're about to do anyway. So, but it's always important to you know, go ahead and try to change the way our map looks so that we're not confused. So we can change it to blue, like the book asks us to. And at this point, we've got a thing going, and so we could change this to, and boom. So we've essentially recreated the map that took us, you know, 10 minutes to make, or you know, however long. But we just made a completely different map based on the same data very, very quickly. So this is why layer files are really important. So. So this is going to come in handy for the next tutorial part, which is 3.4. And again, you might want to save this or export it. But if we go into 3.4, what we see, okay, so we're back. We have essentially what we started with in 3.2, but now we're going to display two maps that are using the same divisions in their data, so that we can compare sort of demographic distribution across states. So what we want to do is, and this is where we ran into an issue in the lab on Wednesday, was what it wants you to do is change this, change the name of this whole. It's not a data set, but it's a data frame is what they call it. This whole thing is a data frame, and what they want us to do is copy and paste it, and it should duplicate that. But we ran into this issue where most of the class couldn't do it, and I couldn't do it on the computers, and that's because we're running ArcGIS 10.4.1. And when I went through initially and did all these, just sort of prepping for this class, I went through and did all these in ArcGIS 10.2, where this was not an issue. Apparently there is a bug, which is bug 000088466, where you are unable to copy and paste a data frame. And this bug actually cropped up initially in 10.3.1. So if you are running ArcMap prior to 10.3.1, you can just go in, right-click this data frame, copy it, and paste it without a problem. And I know a couple of students in the class were able to do that because they were running earlier versions of ArcMap. But it's not a huge. It doesn't take a ton of time to get around this issue, but it is a pain because it would be very nice to just copy and paste. So what we want to do, so if we want to compare sort of two sets of data, we still need to get this other data frame. So what we're going to do is go up to Insert and insert a new data frame. And so we could label this black pop. And what we're just going to do, so say if you wanted to duplicate this data frame, you would just copy every layer inside of it and paste it into here. Since we only have one layer, so we're just going to right-click this layer, copy it, and then with this one selected, click Paste. And we've sort of essentially duplicated what we had up here. But you'll see this is an unprojected map. So if we go over, right now you see this is bold. This means this data frame is active. So if we want to look at our other data frame, we have to right-click it and go to Activate. And so we see, okay, this is a very nicely projected map. And really quick, I'm just going to unlabel these. This is not super important, but it will make our maps look nicer later on. But so say if you want to go back and forth between the maps, you just right-click and go to Activate. So in order to sort of remedy this issue, what we're going to do is we're just going to go back and we've done this in several assignments and in several tutorials before. So you just go to right-click Properties and you choose your coordinate system. So you go down to Projected Coordinate Systems, Continental, North American, and find North American Albers equal conic. Boom, and we've got this. Specifically for this one, actually, when I was running through it, I realized that they're using a slightly different projection on this map. So if we bounce over, it's not actually, I don't know if it's not immediately clear that they are, but here they're using USA contiguous Albers equal conic, which is just so slightly different. So if we just want to make sure they're on the same one. But again, and if they weren't, it's not a big deal because they're so very close. It doesn't really change sort of it wouldn't change the way the maps looked in any, I think, visible way. But so they're both on the same projection now, and we can sort of we can continue on to what we were doing. So we're going to just essentially do what we did in 3.3 and import a new set of data. So we have our states pop layer. We want it to pull from population, and we're going to choose African American, and now we can essentially just go back and do exactly what we did in 3.3. There we go. Okay. So now we have our two maps. If we click between them, we can activate. Okay, so this is what this one looks like. Okay, this is what this one looks like. So this is essentially we have just we have combined 3.2 and 3.3. So that now we have the same maps that are using two different data frames in the same sort of ArcMap file. And so now we want to sort of present them in a layout like we have done. So what we want to do is go back over to our, let's go ahead and activate this one. Go to View and Layout. Okay, and we're going to see we have both our maps. There we go. And we're looking good. So now we have both our maps, and you can see as you click each one now, so this one becomes active. Let me unclick this. So this is bold, but I click this one, now this one's bold. So you could, I can click on this one and go to View, Data View, and we're looking at this map. Or I can also, if I click this one and activate it, and we go back to Data View, then this one is active. So that's another way you can do it. It's sort of the slow way. Right-clicking and activating is probably the way to go. But so let's just go ahead and set up our map. So it says on the horizontal we want a line at 0.5 and at 8. And that sort of gives us our edges. And then we want one at 6.5 and 6.8. So here, and see I'm dragging up here, and if you look in the top left corner, you'll see this number changing, so that you can precisely put it where you want it. So I want it at 6.8. This one's at 6, I guess. We want it at 6.5. Whoops. There we go. So now we have that one there, and we want to add a line at 1, at 5.4, 5.6, 6.5, and 10. Okay, there we go. So all those are set up and ready to go. And now we want to sort of put our maps, resize our maps sort of to the size that we want. So what we're going to do, we're going to choose to put them between this top left corner here, so that our first line, and we want to skip this one, go down to here and here, and that will, so you can maybe see where we're going with this, and that is, we've got a little gap here between the maps, and so maybe we'll put something in this area. And maybe we'll put something, here. So this is, it's sort of setting us up, and this is something that you would think about when you're creating your map. Okay, I want my legend to be here, and I want it to be the same distance from the map and the edge of the paper, or I want the maps to sort of be this X distance apart. So you would just set this up. The book has already sort of made all these decisions for us, so we're just sort of following along and making it happen. So with our maps resized, maybe we want to go ahead. Oh, we want to make sure this one is active, and let's go ahead and zoom in. Okay. And that looks pretty good. I like that. And we'll zoom in on this one. But let's say, I don't do it just perfect, right? So let's say, okay. Oh wow, so we have way more space here off California. Okay, so I mean this is good. These are fairly close, but as you can see, okay, Maine is slightly closer over, to this edge than Maine is over here. So what we can actually do is let's back out of this, and what we can do is go over here and right-click Properties. And so we're going to right-click this data frame and go to Properties, and we're going to go to Extant Indicators. And what we're going to do is, I think I'm doing it wrong, actually. What we want Oh yeah. So what we want to do is click on this one actually. Go to Properties, go to Extant Indicators, and bring over this other data frame, this Asian Pop data frame. And what this does is now it gives us the exact boundaries of our other data frame, so that we can try to position them just right. So what we're going to do, we're going to zoom in, trying to cover over this red box. And what we're going to do, that's going to be about as close as we're going to get it. You know, I don't think we're going to be able to really tell much of a difference between these two at this point. So what we can do is then just go back in and bring this back over, and that will turn off that red line. And now we have two maps that are displaying two different sets of data, but they're using the exact same gaps in the data so that we can compare them, right? So if, you know, again, we can't compare two data sets if they're using different different gaps in their data, right? So it's apples to oranges at that point. But this lets us do that, and now the maps are about this. You know, they're in the same position, and they are situated on the map in a very nice way. But actually, what we want to do here, because we're only going to have one legend here, so since we don't really need two legends, since they're going to be using the same gaps in the data. So we want to make sure that they're actually the same color. And this is something I just got ahead of myself, you know, trying to make it look like the last one. So we're just going to make everything blue. And that way it's, you know, they're using the same scale, so this will work out. So now that we have sort of resized them, we can start adding all of the aspects of our map. So if we go to Insert, we can now add our legend. And again, we don't really have to change anything here because we just have one set of data that we're showing. Okay. And so now we have our legend. And it wants us to put it between the 8-inch vertical and the, so it's the upper right at the 8-inch vertical guide, which is right here, up against here, and the 6.5. So I guess it wants the corner right there. And then it wants the, so resize it to fit between the 6.8-inch and 8-inch vertical guide. So we just want to, boom, bring it down to here. So it sits nicely in between these two maps, in between these two lines. And we'll see that right now, since our active layer is this black pop data frame, the legend that it created is based on this data frame. And so we might want to change this. So what we want to do, you can right-click and sort of zoom to this element. So we're in there nice and close, and we can. Oh, why is this not working? Oh, so now what you want to do is convert to graphics, and what this does, it just convert selected element to a simple graphic. And what this lets us do is it lets us now edit it by just sort of clicking on stuff. But first we have to ungroup it. So these are all grouped around. So if I can move them around as a unit, So first I want to ungroup, and so then I can change each of these elements individually. So with this one, we may just want to delete it. So I just hit the delete key on my keyboard, or we can right-click and go to delete. And now, so say we want to keep all these things together. Let's see. We can select them all again and click group. So now we can move them around as a group again. But we don't have a label that is not necessary for this map. So what we want to do to now get back to the rest of the map is this little button up here. It says zoom to whole page. We can click that, or we can right click and go to zoom to whole page, and that'll get us back out to this point. And we want a title, so we go to title again, and maybe we want something like this. And it wants us to have 20, bold. So we have our title here. And we could put it at the top of our paper. But you can also do something like this, which is we go to right click, go to properties, and we can change this angle. So if we change it by 90 degrees, so these are, degrees, we can flip it over like this. And then we get a nice thing. But on the side of the paper, but you can see sort of runs off, so we may want to edit that again, and we can hit enter to put it onto a second line. So now we have sort of a nicer title sitting over there at the edge. So we could go through and we could add we could add our scale bar here. We could add lots of stuff. But at this point, the book is sort of say, okay, well, you've done all that. You don't really need to do it again. But you could go in here, and it's not that hard. As always, you want to have your source, which is the U.S. Census 2010. But at this point, we're pretty much done. This was sort of everything that you needed to take away from the tutorials this week. So not very hard. It's a lot of setting it up, making it look nice, which is important. So that your data looks professional and presentable. So, well, at this point, if you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, good luck on your homework, and I will see you guys on Monday.